Our next billionaire profile macro legend is Paul Tudor Jones, who I'm nicknaming here the Rockstar, and he's my personal favorite trader. Very eclectic, very interesting guy. He has an awesome documentary out called Trader. It was made back in the 80s. It's actually pretty hard to find though. He scrubbed it from the internet, but if you search hard enough, you can find it. I'd recommend watching it. It's very entertaining. And this guy is just a beast. So, first off, he is a global macro-oriented trader, mainly in the futures and forex markets, and he's never lost money in 28 straight years of trading. Now let that sink in for a second. 28 straight years, not a single down year. I mean, guys like Buffett can't even come close to that. 5 years in a row, he had triple-digit returns. And because of this just awesome performance, he is worth around 4.6 billion today. And that picture on the right is from that documentary I just told you guys about. Here's his, what he calls his lucky shoes that he puts on after he placed a big trade. And I know that kind of sounds hokey or cheesy, but the guy really does have an interesting personality, and he's just kind of joking around in that documentary. But the guy is definitely worth watching if you can find this documentary. Extremely high energy. Some other notables about him is he made an absolute killing in the 1987 stock market crash. And you can see the theme here that these guys clean up, not only in up markets, but also in down markets. And on this day in 87, the market dropped 22%. And Jones ended up that month 60%. And he finished out 1987 up 200%. All right, and you can see the chart right here. This is the 1987 crash. Around right here is when Black Monday started, and it fell from 280 all the way down to around 230 within one day. It was quick. And everyone was panicking in this downfall. They thought the market was over. They thought the world was ending. A guy like Jones and a lot of the macro guys can stay calm, cool, and collected during times like these, play short, and actually bank a ton of money in situations like this. And just some more wisdom from over the years. He was huge on risk control, and this is another thing we're going to see throughout this course is how macro players really focus on risk control. And so here are a couple quotes from him. At the end of the day, the most important thing is how good are you at risk control. So he's a big believer in that, along with the macro, risk control is really the thing that will make or break your process. And I totally agree with him. And until I understood risk control, I never made money. Every day I assume every position I have is wrong. Another great quote that a lot of macro traders really focus on is constantly questioning their assumptions. And we'll talk about that more later in the course. And that segues into his other famous saying, which is losers average losers. And you can see that pinned right above his desk here on the right. And, he did not think a position was better if it kept on going against him, contrary to a typical value investor who would say, hey, if something is cheap at $10, it's cheaper at $8. But that's just not how macro guys think, and especially Paul Tudor Jones. And we could really learn a good lesson from what he has to say in regards to losers averaging losers. And finally, we'll finish off with another one of his quotes that I really like, which is, the concept of paying 100 and something times earnings for any company for me is just anathema. Having said that, at the end of the day, your job is to buy what goes up and to sell what goes down. So really, who gives a damn about PEs? And what's really interesting to me, if you guys don't know what a PE is, that's price to earnings ratio. It's a metric that people use to value stocks. And what he's saying here, just like Livermore was mentioning about general conditions and the underlying stocks, is those are just far less superior to an investment process as understanding the macro. So no matter what the PEs are, PEs can go from 50 to 100 in a raging bull market, and they can get cheap and be low and go from 10 to 6 in a horrible bear market. So, it's something that he's saying here, you got to follow the macro, buy what's going up, sell what's going down. And the PE is really just a periphery stat.